Hello and welcome, my name's Glorious Badger, and in today's video we'll be painting the Emperor's Children, specifically for the Horus Heresy. So that is going to be mostly purple. I'm doing my best to stay completely away from magenta, so let's see if we can do it. However, first of all, we will not be painting that shoulder pad. I'll be painting it black, and then you can put on your own transfers, or indeed you can swap it out for your own sculpted version. However, let's get stuck into it, and here we go. Alright, first paint, Naggaroth Knight. And then we are going to be using Phoenician purple, followed by Xereus purple right here. And then final edge highlights will be done with Genestealer purple. I almost used some Lich purple, but in the end I chickened out as I don't want to waste it. So here we go. I've watered this down a fair amount. In fact, probably slightly more than I initially intended. But that is not going to be a problem. It's always best to have the paint too thin rather than too thick, because you can just do more layers of paint to get that even tone that you want. So here you go. We're just going to continue building this paint up. Unfortunately, we do drift down off camera a fair amount on this video. I'm going to have to paint a target, really. So here's one or two coats later. Probably going in for the third coat right now. As you can see. Right, it's quite patchy. However, once we've got an even coat, we're going to move on to Retributor armour, and we're going to paint all of these rivet things on the shoulder pads and any other golden bits required. I'm just making sure I get them all coated in paint just so I don't forget one randomly. It has happened in the past. So just getting a tiny bit of gold on to begin with, and then we can move on to the next stage. Also, we're going to get a couple of bits on the chest with the gold. And we're also going to use Vallejo Metal Colour Steel. And we're going to do all of the steel parts. So the stomach part right there. And those, I don't know what those are. Those things over the shoulders are going to get covered in steel as well. Get a nice good coat. And obviously paint sort of down the edges of them as well to where they meet the armor. That is the main thing, and yeah, a bit more like that. Now we've got Nuln Oil Gloss. Now this is an old one, I believe they've gotten rid of it, and that's also Druchii Violet, which I'm going to use on the gold. The Nuln Oil Gloss, in this particular case, is going to get used on the steel parts. If you don't have the gloss version, it doesn't matter. I certainly don't mind, because I matte varnish everything anyway at the end of the painting, so everything goes matte. The gloss is just I don't know, a bit extra in case you don't varnish, I guess. I'm going to tidy up a few of those little gold specks that where we missed the where we went a bit crazy with the painting. As you can see, that Naggaroth Knight is still quite thinned down, so it's going to probably require a few passes with the gold, but we'll get there in the end. Alright, so now we've got the Druchii Violet, and we're putting that on all of the gold. I prefer to shade gold for the majority of situations with the Druchii Violet. It's a sort of cooler colour rather than, I know some people use sort of Guilliman Flesh Wash or something similar, potentially even Agrax, but Druchii Violet is my preferred. Why are you not painting on camera? Up there. Go on. There we go. That's the spirit. So, I do apologise. And this is going to be Vallejo Metal Colour German Grey. Now we are going to paint all of the sort of undersuit bits between the elbow joints, behind the knees, around the posterior, and any other little bits and pieces that you can see that are going to be sort of rubberized. As you could see if the gun was not blocking the view, or the butt plate for that matter. Get that thing right there, just like so. This color does dry a lot darker. However, we will darken it further down with some Nuln oil. We're going to get that into all of the sort of rubbery creases, so to speak. And that will darken things down suitably. I'm not going to bother highlighting this. This is a relatively quick paint job for this miniature. We don't want to be spending too long on these. We're going to go back with the Retributor armor just to sort of bring that gold back and leave the purple kind of in the downward facing parts of those rivets. If that makes any sense. We want to sort of leave a bit of a shadow there, a bit of a shade going on. So there we go. What are we going to do next, I wonder? I think we've got some Vallejo... Sorry, excuse me. Scale 75 Viking Gold. And we're just using that on the very upwards facing parts of it. Now, we do have some Scale 75 Thrash metal, I believe, for this particular part. We're going to use that to bring back a bit of the brightness to the, I don't know, shoulder strap things, whatever they are. So that will bring a bit of the brightness back to it. We're going to want them sort of vaguely silver color, I guess. Starting to look nice and bright there. We do need one more color though. Oh, hello. Is this it? I do believe it is. Vallejo Metal Colour Aluminium. Rather than chrome. I have used chrome in the past. That does brighten it up quite considerably. Well, at least how I like it. People may have different preferences. Now I'm going to hold this miniature like that, and you see where the light is reflecting off that gold paint? I'm going to drop a bit of that silver, bit of that aluminium colour right onto that sort of highlight spot from the light. It's definitely a good method for doing highlight points. Now moving on to the next colour, which is Phoenician purple. We are going to be painting the majority of the previously painted armour. We're going to be leaving the shadows, the deepest recesses of the armour, just covered in Naggaroth night. We will not be doing coats of this. It's going to require many coats, so thin it down, get a good cup of tea on, and just work those colours in. I'm going to leave a bit of shadow right above the foot on that armour. You can see a bit of that shadow right there, but the coat is definitely needing to be smoothed out, so more coats required, just like that, you see. There's a bit of shadow right there where I'm pointing. And there are some sort of other shadows here and there, so use it to your heart's content. Moving on to Xereus purple. We are going to put a bit of a chunky highlight on all of the edges. Get it watered down suitably so that it flows nicely off the brush. We don't want it flooding the miniature, obviously, but getting it flowing off onto the edges is the aim of the game. It can be kind of chunky with it. Don't have to be too neat. But just keep that paint flowing. Get those edges done. And we'll be on to the next stage soon enough. As you can see right here, we're just getting that hip area done. That behind the knee joint right there. Getting the top of that leg armor. It's looking pretty good as it is. I mean, you could potentially leave this right now, but I will be doing a further stage, which I'm going to show you right now. In fact, here it is. I'm going to mix up a tiny bit of Xereus purple and Genestealer purple, just as like a mid-tone final highlight, so to speak. So this is going to be quite quick, hopefully. We're just going to try and get the sort of upward-facing panels as much as we can with this colour. It's almost the final highlight, so we want to be a bit neater where possible. And yeah, that's basically it. Obviously, keep it nice and smooth. It's about a 50-50 mix. You don't have to be really exact. Now, this is the final coat. Genestealer purple. We want it nicely watered down so it flows off the brush as per usual. Use the edge of the brush and just run the side of the brush along the raised areas where you want the highlights. So obviously I'm using I like with sort of the upward facing edges, like the tops of the armor panels, etc. Occasionally you do have to use the point, but the majority of the case you should be able to use the edge of the brush quite nicely. I'm liking how that looks, definitely. And there it is. You can see the color variation along the armor panels. It's pretty quick. I'm not a huge fan of using washes all the time, so this means we don't have to use sort of a purple armor wash or something like that. Now we've got some black Vallejo Model Colour German grey, neutral grey. Those are the colours I normally use, and some Fortress grey. This is indeed for the shoulder pad right there. We're going to use the German grey, and we're going to do a bit of a chunky edge highlight going on right here. I will not be using transfers or decals or decals or however you want to pronounce them on this miniature. I do not own them, and I do not have the raised sort of sculpted shoulder pads either, so you're just going to have to use your imagination on this particular one. Let's get a couple of decent coats of this German grey. It's a nice colour. It certainly dries a nice dark grey before moving on to neutral grey, which it's just an edge highlight, even though I'm just teasing you with the potential of seeing it on camera. There it is. We'll eventually sort of get a target on the cutting mat to sort of paint above, and we'll finally get good at this. However, just edge highlight. Remember, this colour does dry darker. So after that first coat, you might need to come back and do a second coat. Now, Fortress Grey. If you don't have that, that doesn't matter. Just add a tiny bit of white to the neutral grey. You just wanted a tiny bit brighter. And that is going to be the final edge highlight for the shoulder pads. Nice and easy. Nice and quick. There we go. Nice edge highlighted. Nice and sharp. Wiggle, wiggle. Lovely stuff. Now we've got to look at the eyes. Oh, dear. So, we've got a dark green. There's probably Caliban green, Lupercal green, Warpstone glow, Moot green, and we might also use a tickle of Necrotite green as well, and actually a tiny bit of white right at the end. So, the dark green first. Doesn't really matter if you don't have that colour. Just any old sort of dark green will work. It's going to work that into the eye sockets, but I do like to leave a little bit of a black edge around the sort of outside of the lens, as you can see right there. Ever so slightly, a bit of a black edge around it. So once that's dried, you're going to move on to Warpstone Glow. I want to try and do that from about 2/3 of the sort of way across. Oops. 2/3 of the way across the eye socket to the center of the eye. That is the general plan for the sort of second color. And then with further colors, I like to work further in. Sometimes you will have to work from the inside out to get a good bit of coverage in the corner. But there we go. It's pretty even. Now moving on to Moot Green. We are going to go straight into the corner. Oh, it was a very dry day that day. Needed to double check that there was enough water mixed in with the paint. So working from the center outwards is the move for this particular color. Almost the final highlight. There's my Instagram. Do check it out. Instagram.com/gloriousbadger. Lovely jubbly. Looking pretty good. Might need a bit of a touch up. Maybe not. Now is a good time to do it. So if you need to run a bit of black around the lenses to tidy the shape up or something, now would be a good time. And this is Necrotite green right in the corner of the eyes. Just in the very corner. I overextend it slightly too much, I think, in my opinion. But, oh well. It gives a good result at the end. And that's all that matters. Now, we've made a bit of a glaze up with Warpstone Glow. We are going to glaze that over the bottom of the sort of visor. That section. I'm going to wait a minute or so, wait till that's dried and put on another one. It is a bit of a weird shape, so I think I will have to revisit this particular thing when it comes to the shape of this sort of lens glow on the nose panel, whatever it is. Now we've moved up to Moot Green. This is a bit brighter. It's going to give us a general look of how we want it. That is actually less of a glaze and more of a wash. This was a bit of a mistake. So do make sure you've got not too much paint on the brush. Put it against a bit of kitchen towel or something like that to remove any excess liquid from the brush, and then you should have a suitable amount. So there was a bit of a mistake on my behalf. I do apologize. I do know how to do it, I promise. So I will You will miss me. I did go and tidy this up in a bit. But we put a tiny bit of white right in the corner there. Both corners. Tiny bit of white paint. Oh, that was too much. That needs cleaning up as well. I don't quite know if I tidy that up on camera, but it does get tidied up for the finished piece, which is the important part. Hopefully that nose shape also gets, that glow gets a bit of a tidy up as well. But that does not happen in this video, so I do apologise. However, we do need to paint the gun strap, so using Rhinox hide, Scrag brown, a colour like Ushabti bone as well, for a sort of highlight. In my basic bolter video, which you'll have obviously seen, if you haven't seen it, then I will link to it. We did just the basic bolt of the steel and the panels. We didn't go over any sort of leather straps. In this case, we used Rhinox hide as a base coat. Then we got Scrag brown. We're just going to sort of edge highlight it. Run this colour along the edge of the leather straps. We're also going to paint in some scratches and scuffs. Hopefully in some suitably nice random shapes. It's slightly too watered down, but it's not the end of the world. It all looks vaguely natural at the end of the day. Tapping the brush is definitely a good technique to introduce a bit of randomness. I did probably a bit too many parallel lines on this, but that's a future thing I'm going to have to try and remedy. Moving on to Ushabti bone, or the final kind of highlight, we'll sort of tap the brush along the edges again. Try and highlight some of those scratches to sort of make them look, I don't know, somewhat more worn. Run it along there. Occasionally we will slide the brush along the entire edge of a bit of leather, but tapping is an excellent method for adding some randomness as well. And we are coming to the end of this video. I would like to take this opportunity, folks, to say thank you very much for watching the entirety of this. I could ask you a question. What chapter are you, what legion are you looking forward to seeing me paint up? And that's about it. We're going to snap this off the base, chop the hand off, and glue him on, along with the backpack. And there it is. There's a finished piece. Obviously, you didn't see me do the backpack, or should I say the standard thing. I will do a future video on that, no doubt. It's all using the same techniques that I've used. Same colours. The gold, the steel, the purple. The only thing you haven't seen me do is the white and the scroll work. But I will be doing separate videos. So do not worry. We will feature all of that. If you've made it this far, friends, do you consider liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell for notifications? Also, do you like this format of video? I'm really trying to get these videos less than 20 minutes. It's a bit of a struggle sometimes. We got it down to about 18:30 in entirety today, so I'm pretty happy with that. 15 is the goal, though. What are you keen on seeing me paint? That is my question to you, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you in the next one. Thank you, and goodbye.